Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Upgrades. I'm Jeremy Knoll.
And I'm John Suarez.
Today we are talking about the March of the Machine deck, Call for Backup. This was the deck that we got to preview.
Yeah, it sure was.
And it's a doozy. I like this one a lot. It is a green, red, white deck that is featuring the new backup mechanic. And that is featured on the Commander, which is Bright Palm Soul Awakener, 1 red, green, white for a 4/3 legendary creature Fox Shaman. I accidentally said Samurai when we did our reveal, I believe, because I was going too quickly and it was like one of the first times I'd seen the card. Fox Shaman, backup 1. When this creature enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. If that's another creature, it gains the following ability until end of turn. Whenever this creature attacks, double the number of +1/+1 counters on target creature. That creature can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less this turn. So this one is a +1/+1 counter deck, but it's almost kind of a go tall +1/+1. It wants one really big creature, kind of.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it depends on which backup creatures you have. Obviously, we're going to see some in a minute that have multiple backups. But yeah, I think the idea is to kind of, get the ability onto one very good creature.
Yeah. I do like that it's this turn, you can give it temporarily to another one. That's the whole idea of backup, assisting kind of thing. So that one's kind of cool. We also have our team up partner sort of thing. We don't want to say partner because it's not partner, that's already beginning. With team up of Shalai and Halar, 1 red, green, white, 3/3 legendary creature, Angel Elf, Flying Vigilance. And whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on a creature you control, Shalai and Halar deals that much damage to target opponent. I think if I was going to build this deck on its own, I might actually just put that right in the front.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful. I'm really glad you took it so I didn't have to read the team up card again. Yeah. But this card's pretty obnoxious.
Yeah, I think this one's just the backups are super sweet, but this one's just obnoxious. It mows things down.
It's 1 or more, so you have to
Yeah.
But if you put it on multiple creatures, this card's really good.
Yep.
That's a really powerful card.
It's interesting. So, for each of these decks, they have Plane Chase in the deck. There's Plane Chase's back. There are 10 Plane Chase cards in each deck, 5 reprints and 5 new ones. There are also a couple of cards in each deck. One is Fractured Power Stone, which is a reprint, and the other one is Ichor Elixir. That's one of the new cards. It's a 4-mana artifact. If you would roll 1 or more planar dice, instead roll that many planar dice plus 1 and ignore 1, and it taps to add 2.
Yep.
It's fine.
Cute little card if you're playing Plane Chase.
If you're playing Plane Chase, cool. If not, it's whatever. It's a 4-mana, add 2. Yeah. But that's one of the new cards. Our next new card
is Conclave Sledge Captain. This guy is awesome. 5 and a green, 4/4, Elephant Soldier, has backup 1, backup 1, backup 1. Which is when this creature enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. If it's another creature, it gains the following abilities till end of turn. Each backup ability triggers separately. So this will be 3 different triggers.
Yep.
And it has Trample, and then whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, put that many +1/+1 counters on it. Mm-hmm. This guy is obnoxious.
It's really, so good. Yeah, it's really absurd. It is 6 mana, 4/4, but it gets things.
So if I put all of these on one creature, I have Trample, Trample.
Yep.
And then 3 instances of whenever this deals damage, double.
Yep.
Put that many counters on it.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Yeah, that card's good.
Yeah, it's real good.
Yeah, that card's real good.
Can you imagine this just Mana Gorger Hydra's in the deck? Can you imagine a Mana Gorger Hydra that has 5 or 6 counters on it?
Not anymore, it doesn't.
Just, bam, you're done. I'm going to let you go over the next one because we talked about this in the preview, but you really like this
I do like this guy. This is Death Greeter's Champion. 2 colors and a red. Human Warrior, 2/1. It has dash 4, 3 colors and a red. It also has backup 1 and then double strike. This guy's really sweet. Just repeatable double strike on demand. I like being able to just have that.
Yeah,
it's very nice.
Yeah,
and backup is just a really, really good mechanic. I think that's going to take a minute to kind of understand and grasp as well. So people are going to have to play with that.
This was something that just throwing this out there. Jason Rainville, the artist, actually posted on social media that just as a tribute in the background.
Yeah, you can see
Alesha smiles at that,
which is awesome.
Which is really, really cool for the plain Tarkir there and fans of the lore. I think that's a nice little add-in.
That's awesome.
Our next one is Emergent Woodworm. I love big dumb creatures that have abilities. So.
This card's not big though.
Yeah, this one's not big by itself. It's 7 mana. It's 6 and a green. A creature worm, 4/4, but it has backup 3. Whenever this creature attacks, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is its power. You may put a permanent card with mana value X or less from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. I love Cascade. I love being able to just play randomly cards off the top.
Yeah.
You know, this one, as a 4/4, if you put the counters on itself, you know, it's nice. It's
you could look at 7.
It's a 7/7, but you have to attack.
Yeah.
So it kind of delays it unless you have some sort of give it haste ability or whatever secondary. But if you're going to put it on like a nice flyer that's like you know, 3/4 or whatever, it works really well. But overall, 7 mana 4/4, you know, it's okay.
Yep. Next card we have is Guardian Scale Lord. This is a 5 mana 4 colors and a white dragon 3/4 with backup 1. It has flying, and when this creature attacks, return target non-land permanent with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is this creature's power. So, a little Sun Titan action.
Yeah, it can be a Sun Titan. If you can get extra counters on this, it gets really silly later in the game where you're just attacking with a flyer that's going to get back stuff over and over and over again. The next one, I know this is one Corey was very, very excited about. Mirror Style Master. I'm not too sure about it, but I haven't gotten a chance to actually play it or get it completely wrecked in my face with it, which I'm sure will happen sometime very shortly. It's a 4 red, so 6 mana total, human warrior, 3/3, backup 1, and it says whenever this creature attacks, for each attacking modified creature you control, create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of that creature. Exile those tokens at the end of combat. This can get silly quick.
It sure can, real fast.
Yeah.
That card is obnoxious and is going to lead to some very unfair scenarios.
Yeah. The modified creatures obviously are really cool. Modified is anything that has a counter, an aura, or an equipment attached to it. Yep. Obviously, if you're playing this with the counters, those tapped and attacking copies don't have the counters on them.
Correct.
But if you can get some kind of nonsense stuff in there that has, you know, enters the battlefield,
then
you
still get ETBs.
You don't get attack triggers.
You do not, so you won't get the backup trigger.
You won't get like the backup trigger. You won't get like the emergent woodworm style trigger where it's on attacks. But you do get any sort of ETBs. So it can get silly real quick, especially if you're playing this outside of this precon.
So the next card we have is one of the cards we mentioned before in a previous video about Will of the Planeswalkers. This is 4 colors and a red. It is Path of the Pyromancer. Sorcery. Discard all cards in your hand, then add a red for each card discarded this way, then draw that many cards plus 1. And then Will of the Planeswalkers, you starting with you each vote for Planeswalk or Chaos, and if Planeswalk gets more, you Planeswalk, and if Chaos gets more, Chaos ensues.
Yeah, this is one of the ones I definitely think, even if you're not playing Planeswalkers, I think you just keep this.
This card's good. Yeah. This card is very good. 5 mana is a lot, but it's still a very good card.
Yeah, when you're thinking about like, I mean, Mana Geyser's obviously going to be way better
sure.
in a multiplayer game. But you're talking about like 5 mana. It's going to not only wheel you, but also gain you some extra mana. So it's pretty good. The last one is Uncivil Unrest, and I know that Stephen Green is very much a fan of the idea.
This card is very good too.
Yeah, so it's 4 and a red enchantment. Non-token creatures you control have Riot, so they enter the battlefield with your choice of a +1/+1 counter or haste. And if a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage instead. We all know Steven likes to play those enchantments that double and triple damage. And giving it Riot seems... and just the Uncivil Unrest. Just seems very Steven. So next, we're going to talk about a few cards that you can add to this deck to maybe make it a little bit better. So if you've watched upgrades before, we like to make this a budget-friendly show. So each of these cards, these upgraded cards, are going to be under the $5 budget range. There's obviously way more you can do with this, and there are some nonsense cards like Doubling Season and the other ones that can double your counters that can go in this very easily if you happen to have them or if you have the budget. But we're looking at some extra cards that are on the lower side.
Unsurprisingly, all of our cards are green.
Yeah.
Not too surprising when you think about it.
Yeah. So it's almost like I worked on this one too.
All right, so our first card is this Clamavus?
Yep.
Clamavus, 4 colors and a green. It is a human Tyrannid Artificer, and it has each creature you control gets +1/+1 for each +1/+1 counter on it.
Yeah, this one comes from the Warhammer 40,000 Tyrannid deck, which kind of had a similar theme of kind of almost tall counters where you wanted to put a bunch of +1/+1 counters, that only shares red and green with this deck.
No.
So that blue cards for them, and then white cards don't really cross over. But there are plenty of green cards in there that you can find that will work for this, and this one makes things big real quick.
It seems that way.
Yeah. Another one that was in that deck that is dropped quite significantly in price.
It has, yes.
Is Hardened Scales. So this one's an enchantment for 1 green mana. If one or more +1/+1 counters would be put on a creature you control, that many +1 are put on it instead.
Yep.
Gets out of hand pretty quick.
Yeah, and you can put, there's 4 or 5 different Hardened Scale cards now, creatures that are easy to play as well, that cost very little.
Exactly.
Next card we have is Defiler of Vigor. 3 colors, green, Phyrexian Worm. It is a 6/6 trampler, and as an additional cost to cast green permanent spells, you may pay 2 life. Those spells cost 1 less green to cast, and if you paid life this way, it only can reduce the amount of green mana you pay. And then whenever you cast a green permanent spell, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control.
Yeah, so it's
Each,
a nice way to get +1/+1 counters on everything. There's a little over 20 green permanent cards in the pre-constructed version of the deck. So you can kind of tweak that, get it a little bit higher so that it's got a little bit better of a chance. But overall, it's just, it's a 6/6 trampler for 5, too.
Yeah, it's notable. Like I said, they're all green cards that we're playing because they interact favorably with tokens,
exactly.
right? +1/+1 counters. But it's notable that white does this very well.
Exactly.
But all of their cards are expensive.
Yeah.
Things like Cathar's Crusade, not a cheap card.
It's gone down a little bit.
It has.
It's still, you can get it for a little bit less. I might be under our budget at this point, but it's also one I didn't suggest because it's also really difficult to keep up with.
So good though.
It is really, really good.
It's about $7-8 now.
Is it $7? Okay,
yeah.
I thought it was getting a little closer to the $5 range because it has been reprinted a few times. But if you can get a Cathar's Crusade, very, very good, especially in a token space deck. The next one, I will definitely show for this every single time that we have a +1/+1 counter deck, and that is Loyal Guardian. It's 4 and a green, 4/4 creature Rhino. It has Trample and Lieutenant at the beginning of combat on your turn. If you control your commander, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Very simple. It's just a lovely little Rhino. Put it in there, get counters.
All right, and the last card we have is Hydra's Growth. 2 colors and a green enchantment. It enchants creature. Whenever it enters the battlefield, you put a +1/+1 counter on the enchanted creature, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, double the number of +1/+1 counters on the enchanted creature.
Yeah.
So white's ability to put counters on creatures are very expensive. Green's cards that come with lots of counters already are expensive. Things like the Hydras and the Worms, those are all expensive. But the ability to put counters on, super cheap.
Yeah, super cheap. A Hydra's Growth, can you imagine getting to double up on this and having Shalai and Halar out? That's going to be nonsense.
I think people are going to be dead.
Yeah, you're just going to shoot down a lot of creatures or just take people out of the game. Yeah. Here's a few cards that you can definitely remove from the deck. Again, these are completely up to everyone's interpretation of what they like to play. This one, just like most of the ones that we've had in recent sets, is a little bit more difficult to choose ones to take out because they do a really good job of making sure these are all synergistic. The first 2 are obviously, if you're not playing Play Chase, take out Fractured Power Stone and take out your Ichor Elixir. They're very, very easy to take out. So the next one that we would take out is one I like this card, but you can get the ability a little bit better in other places, and that's Pride Milkin. It's a 3 mana, 2 and a green cat 2/1. When it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on a target creature you control. Each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has Trample. That second ability is really kind of what you want it for.
Yep.
But there's other options.
But you can get the Outlast guy that does that, right?
Yeah, there's Outlast things like that. There's the Absent Falconers in here to give them all flying and stuff like that too. So.
Next card we have comes all the way from Exodus. Mindless Automaton, 4 mana, 0/0 construct. It comes into play with 2 +1/+1 counters. Allows you to pay 1, discard a card, put a counter on it. Remove 2, draw a card. This card downgraded to an uncommon, rightfully so.
Yeah,
was a rare in 1997 or whatever it was, but I'm glad that it keeps getting reprinted. It's cool to see, but it's not very good.
Yeah.
You can take it out.
It's okay. The next one, when we did our preview of the deck, we kind of talked about this. So this one's on the fence for me, and that's the Emergent Woodworm. It's very much on the fence. This is the kind of effect that I really like I said before, but for trying to put in other cards that are probably a little bit better, you probably want to cut it. But it is also a backup one, so it kind of depends on how you want to take it back.
Next card we have is Semester's End. 3 colors and a white instant. Exile any number of target creatures or planeswalkers you control at the beginning of your next end step. Return them back to the battlefield. And each of them will enter the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter if it was a creature, and an additional loyalty if it was a planeswalker.
Yeah.
This card is cool if you decide to try and combo kill somebody with Halar. And maybe that's a way to do it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, there's plenty of ways to, if you have a bunch of counters out there, you don't want to reset them.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're getting Wrath, there are other ways of protecting your cards.
Yeah.
To not reset your counters.
Yeah, there's definitely other ways. Yeah. Like, I can imagine just having your Mana Gorger Hydra and your this Hydra and this creature that you've pumped in a bunch of, all having like 6, 7, 10 plus counters on them, and then just kind of, now they all have 1.
Yeah.
Like, it's a good way to make sure you keep those creatures.
Yeah.
They don't go to the graveyard, but you put in a bunch, you've got other options.
I tried to put, what was the card? And their name is, they know no fear.
That
card's expensive.
One of the
Warhammer cards.
40,000 ones,
the indestructible card.
Yeah.
To replace this, but
a lot of those ones, some of them, like we talked about before, can be a little bit cheap, like the Clamavus, but some of the real good ones,
they got up there.
They get up there. The last one is Together Forever. This is an enchantment for white. When it enters the battlefield, support 2, which is put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. And then you can pay 1 to choose target creature with a counter on it. When that creature dies this turn, return that card to its owner's hand. Again, it's another protect your creature.
Yeah.
It's fine. I feel like you kind of want to tap out with this deck a lot, so I don't know how much you're going to have multiple times to be able to trigger that as well.
With it. Yeah, I agree.
Honestly, I drew this in our game and was like, okay,
cool.
I didn't really want to cast it.
Yeah.
So those are the cards that we would suggest taking out for the Call for Backup deck. Let us know what cards you would add to the deck, and also what cards you would take out of the deck. And let us know which one of the new precons for March of the Machine is your favorite from the set. I almost did it again.
You did.
I almost did it. Yeah, March of the Machine. Everybody wants to keep saying Mother of Machines because Alishnog was just in the last set. Call for Backup, March of the Machine. You can get this deck at StarCityGames.com. Make sure to also share, subscribe, binge Commander Versus, and comment, like I said, and let us know what you think of this deck and what cards you would add in and take out. For Jonathan Suarez, I am Jeremy Noel. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time.